Yo, Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it, shalom. Welcome to vlog 98 here on the Big Daddy Liberty Show. My name is Big Daddy Liberty. This was a bit of a last minute vlog, and it will be a brief one and a quick fire one. I have a guest, funny enough, on a vlog. Last time I had a guest on a vlog was Gabriel Krauser, if you'll remember, with me doing that update on the Pete Latif case, which was the bail, the finality of the bail hearing, that is. As I said, I have a special guest, and the topic today is a rather exciting one, if I can call it that, insofar as a lot of you have been screaming for this. That is electoral reform, changes in the way in which we do voting. And to that particular effect, there's been a wonderful development, something I caught an eye of today in the Business Day, an article, well, actually in the Business Day and in the Sowetan. There's an article today with the heading, Sweeping Electoral Reforms. Let me actually share that with you as opposed to me waffling. There it is. Sweeping electoral reform on the cards for South Africa, with the particular committee responsible for proposing ideas to the Minister of Health, the Minister of Home Affairs. That's Dr. Motsoaledi. There he is. I only conflate that because he used to be the Minister of Health, but he set up a committee headed by a Dr. Vali Musa. There he is on screen, who is, I think he's on screen. Let me try that again. There. Dr. Vali Musa, who's heading up an electoral advisory committee here in South Africa. It's meant to advise the Minister of Home Affairs on what elections could possibly look like in the country. Now, let me just get my software right here. There's a lot of glitching going on here. I don't like glitches. All right, there we go. Tasked, of course, with advising the Minister of Home Affairs with what elections should look like going forward in South Africa. This is after, of course, the Constitutional Court in this country set down a groundbreaking ruling, basically declaring the Electoral Act, in other words, the piece of legislation that governs elections right now, unconstitutional, for the simple reason that it basically allows only for political parties to contest elections, and to the prejudice, of course, of individuals who may want to become a public rep, but don't want to do it through a political party. So the Constitutional Court, the highest court in this country, basically said it is unconstitutional to bar individuals from being able to run for elections, in other words, a seat in parliament as individuals. It's unconstitutional, of course, to bar them from running as individuals. But let me not waffle on. Let me bring on my guest. That's, I need to say Marius Roodt. My apologies to him, but it's Marius Roodt, an analyst from the Institute of Race Relations. There he is. Marius, welcome to the vlog. I nearly called you someone else there, but by mistake.
I heard.
Brother, let's jump straight into it, because again, and I can see the comments even coming in as we speak, you know, people hitting me with the hashtag direct elections, because for a while that was quite a movement, a social movement in the country, with South Africans seemingly demanding better representation in parliament, and really at the crux of it, electoral reform that allows for people to directly elect their public reps. Is this announcement by Vali Musa of this committee, is it a move in this direction? What is he basically saying to us?
Yeah, it's definitely a good move, and it's move towards, as you say, direct elections. So what Vali Musa said is that there's going to be basically, they're very close to making a recommendation to the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Motsoaledi. Yeah, so they're basically looking at 3 recommendations and how they're going to, one will basically be what is the minimum they can do to comply with the Constitutional Court ruling. But that's probably, but from what it seems like, that is not what they're going to look at. Then they'll also, what they'll be doing is, secondly, a way to modify provincial lists to make those, the people who elected from the provincial lists during elections, make those into multi-constituency units. And the third is a single constituency system accompanied by a national list, which is your mixed member proportional system, which is
Yeah.
basically the way we use. That's the system we have at municipal level, where people elect somebody from their ward to represent them, and they get a second ballot to where they vote for a party to ensure that there's proportionality. So that's where the balance has got to be reached, because the Constitutional Court has, as you pointed out, said individuals need the right to run for parliament and provincial legislatures. But basically, the only the only requirement that the Electoral Act gives for electoral systems, for a South African electoral system, is that it has to have some form of proportionality. So that is where the committee has to find that balance, but it's not particularly difficult. There are many countries around the world that use a system where they directly elect representatives and have a form of proportional representation. New Zealand does it, Germany does it, Lesotho does it. We do that at municipal level, so it wouldn't be too difficult to scale that up. And there's also been a lot of ideas that have been put forward to how South Africa can have a system that allows people to run as individuals, or to represent a certain constituency, as well as having proportionality. Probably the main primary or one of the main recommendations, or one of the most well-known ones, was one from Van Styl-Slobbert Commission, which was that was completed in 2003, and it came forward with a number for recommendation for a new electoral system for South Africa. And I mean, that's been gathering dust since, as I say, since 2003, nearly 20 years now. So that's definitely something that I'm sure Bali Musa and the other members of the committee will be looking at. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see what the recommendation will be.
And I was about to say, it must be said that whatever we want to think about politicians and often their nefarious agendas, this particular committee does seem to have its ear on the ground. In fact, in this particular piece that I picked up or found, excuse me, he's quoted himself as saying, look, one of the things where, this is open quotes, this is him speaking, this is Bali Musa, the chairperson of this particular Electoral Advisory Committee, saying one of the things we're hearing very strongly from young people is a call for direct representation and accountability. But the Constitution also requires that as you mentioned, Marius, that the elections are to be proportional, which is a very important principle of inclusivity. I think there is a recognition, as a final point as we wrap up, I think there's a recognition that there is a growing frustration among South Africans at seemingly a divide between the political elites who are favored right now in legislation. In fact, electoral legislation favors political elites by the fact that you can only be elected as a member of parliament and consequently onto the executive, if you are primarily in a political politics environment. Whereas we're seeing the data present us a bit of a quandary, Marius, where actually more people are just choosing not to engage in the electoral system, with something near like 18 million South Africans right now, obviously looking at the electoral landscape, i.e. the number of political parties, and saying, this is trash, we're choosing not to vote. Do these reforms offer an opportunity to someone who maybe wants to tap into those 18 million to come to the fore?
Definitely, I think so. And as you correctly point out, lots of South Africans don't vote. I think in the last election I know that in the last election, 2019, that's the lowest election voter turnout we've ever had. And if you look at the total number of people who are eligible to vote, that's including people who over 18, who are South African citizens over 18 and can vote, but they haven't even registered to vote. If we look at that, there's probably only about 30% of South African adults voted for the ANC in 2019. Right. So it's a problem for South Africa if people don't feel they're represented, or they don't feel the political system is working for them, then that leads to things such as violent protests. People check out of the electoral system, what are the political system. And I mean, there's lots of things you can criticize in South Africa, but our electoral system is designed to include as many people as possible. But because it's this pure proportional representation and people can't elect their representatives directly, this leads to, as you say, party bosses being in charge, people feel alienated and so on. So I think this is a very important move. And I think it'll be interesting to see if people like Mmusi Maimane or Herman Mashaba can kind of tap into, yeah, exactly, tap into these the disappointment and people who feel alienated and left out of the system. So it's going to, I mean, it's still far too early to say, and this is also not a silver bullet for South African democracy or South African politics, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, and I think it's definitely something we should support. And any listeners who are interested in this, they should definitely follow this and know when the new electoral act gets or there'll probably be a new electoral bill, or I'm sure people will have a chance to have their say. And any listeners or people who are watching now that are interested should definitely follow this and make their voice heard when they do have the opportunity.
Absolutely, and I really do second that recommendation made by Marius. Don't think this is something that should be left into the hands of Vali Musa or Minister Aaron Motsoaledi or any of the political elites. This is your country, your opportunity to actually have a direct say on how elections should take place in this country. Remember, the overall deadline for electoral reform that the Constitutional Court gave was June in 2022. So that'll be before the next national election. So you have a real opportunity to actually change the way in which elections happen in this country. And who knows, maybe you in your area can actually break that stranglehold that party politics and the politicians right now have, and you can vote in, someone directly from your neighborhood to represent you and your needs. So a major thank you to you, Marius, on this. I know you do a lot of writing. There's a report you'd actually put out in this particular regard. How do people find your writing generally and this particular report that I have in mind?
They can generally find my writing on the Daily Friend. That's dailyfriend.co.za. That's the online news platform of the Institute of Race Relations. And then the report I wrote, it came out last year. It was called Electoral Reform. Sorry, let me just get the exact title. Electoral Reform in South Africa. The time has come. And that you can find that also on the Institute of Race Relations website. So that's www.irr.org.za. irr.org.za, and you can just go to reports and then just have a look there. There's lots of the reports we do on various issues that people can have a look at if they're interested. But yeah, that report I wrote on electoral reform is there, and people can go check that out. That gives you an overview of the South African electoral system, as well as the history of the development of our electoral system, and then some examples from around the world of how we could possibly have a new electoral system in South Africa.
Absolutely. That's Marius Roodt from the Institute of Race Relations. He's an analyst in that part of the world. Major thank you to him. And thank you, dear viewer, for watching. It was a quick fire vlog. I really wanted you to get a sense of what's happening when it comes to elections, because there is a lot of movement happening right now. And this is that opportunity, as I said, for you, the faith, flag, family, and freedom type South African, to actually effect real change. Give yourself an opportunity to be able to inject ideas into your community that actually bring about change. In this case, changing how we vote for our public reps. Release that stranglehold of the party politicians, whether it's NCDA, EFF, whoever, and actually have the opportunity to vote in who you want to represent you and your community. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Super appreciate it. If you want to support the BDL show, all of those details are in the descriptor of the video. Super appreciate those who are already Patreon subscribers and who do contribute every month. It does assist in really getting me out and about. With that being said, good Shabbos to those who are observant. It is Friday, Erev Shabbat. And you will not see me on Sunday because it is the beginning of the Jewish holiday of Shavuot. So I will not be on for Liberty and Friends. I'll see you next week, Wednesday, for a action-packed and hard-hitting episode of the Big Daddy Liberty Show. Trust you me, you don't want to miss it. Especially if you've been following what's happening on my social media so far. With that being said, thanks for watching. And a reminder to you to never trust a commie.